We are ready to go back. Okay? So we are going to resume. I'm going to introduce the award winner for the category of social organizations. This is Never Again Rwanda. And our presenter is going to introduce you to what Never Again Rwanda has done. We have here the microphone. Oh, here it is. Here you go.
Kaufman, the entire ISPI team, and the awarding committee, particularly Dr. Mariano, who has been in constant touch with us. Of course, we're also joined by the Never Again Rwanda friends and partners, Professor Teresa, who has been a mentor in many ways and a friend to Never Again Rwanda for over 10 years. The representative of USAID, who is a partner, more of a partner than a donor to Never Again Rwanda. And of course, all the other partners who have joined us online, who are following this ceremony, as well as the Never Again Rwanda staff and friends. I've been delegated by the founder and also the director of Never Again Rwanda to make this presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. So it's our honor to be here and to also introduce you to Never Again Rwanda briefly. First of all, I would say that what we are doing, we do this with various other peace actors in Rwanda and also all over the world to empower the citizens towards positive change. We are a peace building and social justice non-governmental organizations, as they said, and we were founded by students in 2002. And the reason was to create spaces for the youth and university students mainly because of the situation of the post-genocide environment in Rwanda around the year 2002, when we had returnees, the genocide survivors, the members of the perpetrators' families, all of them living in one community. And then it wasn't just an easy thing to have open interactions between these groups of people. So when the organizations came in place, for instance, students would exchange hate speeches, but without talking to each other. They would go and write on the walls of the toilets, and then colleagues would come and respond. And the organization came without knowing. The founders didn't know that it will become an organization, but for them, they wanted a space where you can talk about this, where youth can discuss these challenges to do with our historical backgrounds, politics, governance, but irrespective of their diverse backgrounds. Among the programs we have a peace building program, and one of the things we do is called Peace Building Institute, whose director, Dr. Marin, is also here in the audience. And And the Peace Building Institute seeks to build actors of peace across the world. So we bring international university students to come and spend time with the Rwandan youth, mainly university students, for 2 weeks and try to respond to a question of what can Rwanda teach the world. Of course, the Rwandan students can learn from the students from other societies, but those can also discuss topics like the transitional justice, genocide, the history, and also governance and human rights as well. So we do have spaces for peace, and this is because we need healing. Most of you have read about the Rwanda's reconciliation process. But for us, we believe that genuine reconciliation only happens when people are healed from the wounds resulting from their respective historical backgrounds. This affects the genocide survivors, and part of it includes trauma, things like identity crisis as well. People who cannot identify themselves with their families because they live under the shame of probably what their family has done. So it's both on the genocide survivors side, mainly, but also on the side of the perpetrators, for instance. So these spaces bring people together to discuss their traumatic past and also support each other in the healing journey. They are facilitated by psychotherapists, which are part of Never Again Rwanda staff, but which kind of go beyond just a dialogue, but can bring people together from these diverse backgrounds to spend time and build the trust, because this is crucial. So the community exchange as well, because we want people to share these stories beyond the spaces for peace. And this is whereby these people who have been going through a healing process can express their stories. We can share their stories with the broader community so that we create a broader awareness on the needs for healing. Because we perceived for a long time that healing is not necessarily given the same attention as required in a case of post-genocide societies like ours. We think peace building efforts are needed beyond Rwanda, and that's why we also have a Great Lakes program. And the Great Lakes program creates dialogues, and these are cross-border dialogues for peace, which bring together or citizens of the DRC, for instance, citizens of Burundi, to discuss with Rwanda, because we noticed that irrespective of the differences and political crisis within the Great Lakes region, people still cross borders every day to go and seek a living in other countries. And this even happens when there is wars going on across the other side of the border, or when there's crisis like Ebola, people still cross the border because their relationships exist from the 1800s, many years. People are related. The critical thinking is really important, and this is one of the things we promote, especially among the youth. Youth needs to disseminate, to understand the decisions which are made by either the politicians or their own decisions. Because during the genocide, we had youth who would tell you that we were incited to kill, and we went and killed. And if you analyze, you see that if we have peaceful youth today, it's probably because they aren't placed on as big test as maybe their counterparts did in the past. So we won't be safe until we build critical thinking skills among our youth, so that they can really take decisions which are beyond themselves, and also think critically. We believe that governance and democracy are closely related to peace building. And this is why we're trying through the citizen forums, for example, to build the capacity of the citizens to analyze decisions and policies made, which of course affected them, but also increase their participation through decision-making processes. We want leaders to consult citizens, but on the other side, we also want leaders to be confident that citizens can give them ideas and opinions which are valid through the policy-making process, for example. We have community dialogues which, beyond just participating in policies and decisions, also promote harmony and peace among the members of the community. When I say this, it becomes absolutely more crucial to never again Rwanda and more relevant because we're talking about communities of survivors of the genocide, for instance, and communities of the perpetrators who are living together. And when you're a politician and you begin talking about development, you're talking about these people who might not necessarily want to sit together in the same meeting, for instance. So these community dialogues help us to bring everybody together and to discuss issues affecting them. We also have round tables, particularly with young people, trying to build the confidence of young people to challenge the decision makers and also build a space for them to advance their thoughts about what is going on in the country. And this goes with the media engagements and trainings, because we believe media is not just a channel through which information is passed on to people. We take media as a boundary partner, at the same time as people who can change and help us to change the society. And this is why we crucially engage media and train them to be more conflict sensitive when they do their reporting. Seem to be stuck.
I have a little request, Eric.
Yes.
To give us, I don't know if all of us is familiar with the genocide or what Rwanda went through. Could you give us a brief picture of what that means? Because I think that will even emphasize more the scale and the challenge.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The genocide has a history of sort of a divisive politics which existed since the 1960s or even before I was born there. So, but the Hutus were priests to head Tutsis because there was a Hutu regime in place, but which took over obviously after also the colonial masters had sort of privileged Tutsis, and then they said the situation now is for you to save yourselves. So when the Hutus took power, so this continued until of course the 1994, whereby Hutus civilians were incited to kill Tutsis through the genocide. But that's when a Tutsi-led label, the RPF, had sort of attacked the country because people who had lived in exile for 30 years needed the country. So they pushed through a wall, and that was at the same time inside the country. The government said, "You see, you are being attacked. You need to defend yourselves," and then the genocide took place. But we would say that living in the country, you could see signs of preparations because the genocide has its own stages. We cannot say that it's a rain. Of course, there were signs which happened a little area, and then 1 million people died, Tutsis mainly, and also the Hutu moderates.
1 million people.
1 million people. The statistics show over 1 million people in a period of 100 days. So that's 3 months. So that's and that marked actually an absolutely important stage of the history of Rwanda, irrespective of anything that happened before. The genocide against Tutsis in the 1994 keeps becoming a reference because that was sort of a rebirth of the country when the post-genocide government took over, and then they started rebuilding everything from scratch. So, yeah.
How many people live in Rwanda at the time?
At the time, we are around 12 million people in a considerably small country, less than 30,000 square kilometers, actually 28 something square kilometers. So, does this help? Yeah, yeah. Of course, there is what we do in relation to that, but we also recognize that the issues of our society have roots much beyond the 1994 genocide against Tutsis, and also it could be related to what is happening today. When we talk of governance, for instance, the issues of governance, the issues of democracy may not necessarily be directly linked with the context. They can be associated with the actions people take today. So we involved in research and advocacy, and we do it. That's why we actually do a lot of participatory action research. The PAR approach, which most of us are familiar with, because we believe that the citizens, the community members, they know the solutions to their problems more than anybody else. So through the focus group discussion, for instance, at the same time they go through a process of discussing the challenges they face, but we also use this in a research process. And then we engage the stakeholders to adopt recommendations, because part of the recommendations could be associated with the government. For instance, we need the government to change the practices, for instance, on certain issues. So we do take the government as a key stakeholder and as a boundary partner as well. So our stakeholders meeting seeks to engage everybody, the government, the civil society, the private sector, the academia as well, to discuss these challenges and also build an advocacy team that keeps following on the implementation of those recommendations. In whatever we do, we make sure that we use creative approaches, particularly seeking the attention of the youth, because youth are a key actor in the process of peace building, particularly in our case. So we do use football for peace, for instance, where we bring youth from diverse backgrounds to come together and play. This is not like American football. This is soccer. This is yeah, yes, real football. Yes. So the youth arts competition as well, because we know that part of these issues we are discussing are of interest to the young people, but they don't necessarily have an appropriate approach to express themselves. But through arts, for instance, when they write songs, when they play theater, they also express themselves. And we know that they have a huge interest to learn about the history of genocide and understand what is going on in the country. The public speaking and exchange, which doesn't just happen in Rwanda, but where we bring youth also from the other countries in the Great Lakes to come and share with the Rwandans what they think about peace building issues in the region. And of course, we do have several clubs and associations, over 140 for now, which have over 4,000 active members. And these conversations keep going on through these associations. Now, in the last 17 years of experience, beyond the 4,000 members, youth members, mainly I was talking about in these clubs, we've been able to implement over 40 projects because we keep changing the approaches, we keep learning about new approaches, and we've been able to reach out to over 100,000 beneficiaries. And we believe things like these awards, these partnerships that we're talking about, we keep moving us forward, not just for Never Again to stay, but for Never Again Rwanda to build agency in the community, which can be able to keep this peace building process. So now, as I conclude, allow me to present a very short video to you, which talks about a story of two young people who are from different ethnic identities. One is from a Hutu ethnic group, another is from the Tutsi ethnic group. So we see what I was talking about.
nitwe turi kumwe n'Imana Jean de Dieu.
nitwa Ishyaka Makuza Cedric.
turi kumwe mbere yuko ninjira mu itsinda ry'abanyamahoro, nari turi kumwe ugenda wishisha. Ngiye nishishaga abantu b'abacikacumu, nkagenda ngira amakenga yo kuba nakwinjira mu nzu y'umucikacumu, najya kumusura iwabo, nanyura no ku murima we.
Urebye Shyaka wa mbere n'ubu ngubu baratandukanye, kuko naho mu myaka nk'itatu cyangwa se 2 n'igice ishize araza hano mu itsinda, ari umuntu usa n'ufite ingengabitekerezo. Numvaga bivuge gutya, ntabwo nabaga nagendana n'umuhutu, cyangwa se n'ubwo wenda twagendana ariko nkagenda mwishisha, numva ko umutekano wanjye utuzuye.
Ikiganiro n'abandi bana ubu bagatangira kuvuga ati mwebwe muri abahutu, tuweho ntutwegere, tuweho uri umuhutu, muri interahamwe. Nkabyumva nkababara cyane, nkavuga se kugira ngo banyite interahamwe ubu ni iki? Tukaza tukabiganiraho kwishiga, ubwo akavuga ati uzira bihorera, none wakora iki?
Amateka y'u Rwanda ni maremare. Hari jenoside yakorewe abatutsi, hari abayigizemo uruhare. Umuryango wanjye ushobora kuba warangirije ibitungo, none tugasabwa kuyishyura, atari twe twayangirije, wenda ari ababyeyi bacu, kumva ko baduhohoteye.
Numvaga yuko wenda nk'abasogokuru cyangwa se badata bacu baba barapfuye muri jenoside, numvaga ko abahutu muri rusange ari babigizemo uruhare. Umva rero ko umutekano wanjye utaba uri safe ku buryo najyana nabo.
Uramutinya, utazi uramutinya, utazi uramuhunga. Ariko iyo muhuriye mu itsinda, ntabwo aba akiri wa wundi utazi, aba ari wa wundi uzi, aba ari wa wundi wegereye, aba ari wa wundi noneho muvugana murebana mu maso.
Itsinda ryamfashije kuba namenyana n'abandi abantu batandukanye b'ingeri zitandukanye, nanahigiye n'amateka, menya uko gahunda zari zimeze, kuko nari nzi ko bashobora kuba beshera ko abahutu bashobora kuba barakoze jenoside. Ariko mu itsinda nasanze ababyeyi, nasanga urungano, nasanga abakuru banjye, turaganira bigeze ubwo itsinda ryiyumvishemo.
Ubu ngubu uko mubona ntabwo mubona nka kera aho yinjiriye muri iryo tsinda, kuko mbere ntabwo yagendanaga n'abandi bana, mbese tuvuga b'abatutsi ntabwo bagendanaga, ariko ubu ngubu nibo nshuti ze, abana turaganira tugasangira, nkajya kurara iwabo, nawe urabona kubera ko hari iwacu nta gihe tugira, bakaba n'igihe baje kunganiriza nijoro tugasabana mbese muri make.
icya mbere na mbere itsinda ribaha urubuga rwo kuvuga ibintu batashoboraga kuvugira ahandi hatari mu itsinda. Icyo ni kimwe. Mu itsinda umuntu yigira ku bandi, agenda afata ibyo abandi bagiye banyuramo, uko bagiye babinyuramo, akagerageza kugira gute, akagerageza kubigiraho. Ikindi noneho mu itsinda ahabonera abagenzi, ntabwo aba agifashe urugendo wenyine.
nk'uko ibiganiro byinshi twagiye tugira hano mu itsinda, wenda nko komorana ibikomere nk'iryo jambo ushobora kuvuga ngo nuko njye nahise numva ko ari ibikomere bigaragara, ariko burya ni ibikomere by'imbere mu mutima. uza kubona ko abantu bose ari kimwe. Ibintu byo kwishisha kuvuga ati uyu ni umuhutu, uyu ni umututsi, uyu ni umutwa, mbona ko ari ubusa, ko ari zeru, ahubwo twese ko turi abanyarwanda.
Ariko ni urugendo rukomeza, ntabwo uhita uvuga uti rusojereje hano. Gukira ibikomere ni urugendo.
Shyaka ni inshuti yanjye, yanzanye mu itsinda ry'abanyamahoro, nkomeza kwigiramo ibintu bitandukanye. Kera iyo abantu babaga ari inshuti nyanshuti baragabiranaga. Icyakora njyewe ntabwo nari mfite ubushobozi buhambaye bwo kuba namuha icyo ntagira, ntabwo nari bumuhe inka ntafite. Icyakora njyewe namuhaye ihene kuko nizo nari ntunze.
Naratashye mva ku ishuri nk'uko babivuze, mpasanga ihene bose bimeze bite, barambwira ko ari turi kumwe, izo nyine ndamuhamagara ambwira ko iyo hene burya ari iyo yangabiye. Biranezeza cyane pe, ndishima. Mbese nabuze urwego nabishyiramo, ariko nza kubyakira, navuga ati ntabwo nari nzi ko turi inshuti ku buryo yangabira cyangwa se yagira ikindi nk'iki ampa cy'agaciro.
Ntabwo turi kumwe yaza ngo Shyaka arare ukwe, na turi kumwe n'umwana mu nzu, ni umwe na Shyaka.
Arenze n'inshuti. Akenshi mba ni Gisenyi, ari hano mu bikorwa, ariko nta munsi bwakira tutavuganye, kandi nta n'igihe nazamuka ndeke kuza kumureba, nawe nta gihe yagira Gisenyi umuntu bareke kuza kundeba.
Aka gapira nambaye nake, nawe ashobora kuba yambaye inkweto zanjye. Turararana aho bwije, iyo ageze iwacu araharara, yagera ashonje akarya, nanjye nagera iwabo arya, twajya mu nka akampa amata. Mbese navuga ko nta mututsi imbere yanjye, abantu bose ni abanyarwanda.
The journey continues as the video is saying, but this is just a very simple illustration of what could be happening in villages there, and how NAR approaches are engaging the communities in that way. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again for this time. And I will hand it over to Mariano.
One more detail to put us in context about the what percentage of Rwandans are now younger than 25 years old, roughly speaking, because I saw a lot of young people.
Yes, we actually have close to 60% are less than 30 years. And actually also 60% of those were born after the genocide. So that's a major challenge as well, but it's an opportunity as well. It's a challenge because we're not seeing people who are affected by these wounds as the elder people only. It's also these young people born after the genocide. They are being affected by trauma, and they are in a constant search to understand what happened in the country. So this could be a challenge as well, because we need to build spaces which are safe for them to ask their questions, but through which they can also have genuine information and avoid political manipulation, for instance, so that we hope for a brighter future. So Never Again Rwanda, through these spaces, also engages young people, and the example is these ones. But even in spaces where we have elder people, we also do have a certain percentage of young people, absolutely depending on the nature of the space, because there are those which are homogeneous. For instance, if you're talking about people who are victims of rape, we do have usually a homogeneous space. But for these mixed groups, we make sure these various categories of young people are involved. Of course, we do have also spaces which are uniquely for the young people.
Okay. Complementary question additional was, how many people was forced to emigrate during the genocide? How many just were refugees and coming back?
Yeah, and of course, Dr. Joseph might also chip in, but I would say when you talk about over 1 million people who have died and killed by the civilians, understandably, and the military also participated, but mainly the civilians, because we call this a genocide of proximity. Neighbors would kill neighbors. And as you can imagine, in a population of a little bit over 7 million at that time, or close to 8 million, if I remember pretty well, not one person was killed by one person. So we had millions of people who would have participated in the genocide. And I think we had 2 million or even above 2 million people are, accused in a certain way. And also we had over 3 million people who had just left with the defeated, I would say, the defeated army and government, and they mainly to the DRC and also other neighboring countries. So some of these would be innocent civilians who are kept hostages of the fleeing army. So in such a situation, you would see that the Hutus, which were the majority, mostly in many families, they would have a case of someone accused of the genocide. So it's really a complex situation because civilians were really highly involved. So you might, of course, talking of the transitional justice, you might have heard of the Gacaca courts, which is why you didn't want a justice mechanisms whereby everybody is going to be put in jail and then tried. So this came as a solution whereby you can categorize people, and those who looted, those who shouted, chasing people, you would categorize them so that not everybody would go into jail, but these people would be quickly tried, and majority of Rwandans would resettle in their families. And this is exactly what happened with the Gacaca courts. Do you want to?
Yes. We have a question over there. Maybe we can.
And maybe you can.
Oh, yeah. Joseph.
Yeah, I think you've seen that Never Again. It's now 17 years. So the reason he said that I delegated him and people laughed. It's because I'm preparing a transition. So that's what we teach in governance. We need to empower the people to take over. So based on what you asked, in 1962, 250,000 Tutsis fled and went to the neighboring countries. those 250,000, of course, they married, had children, and then in 1990, they were close to 2.5 million. So they had negotiated and requested to come back, and they had refused them. So that's why they waged a comeback war.
Okay.
So during the genocide, almost 1 million people died, and then other 2 million people crossed the border to DRC with the defeated forces. 2 million left, and other 2.5 came from the diaspora. But again, internally, there were some internally displaced people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
What was the role of any in the Twa population?
On the micro. So,
What about the Twa, I'm pronouncing that correctly, population of Rwanda? What was their involvement in all of this?
So always doctors and professors are always professors. So I didn't know that he knows the Twas.
yes.
Yeah, so the Twas are the Pygmies. And we've seen their population declining, and they are now almost 30,000. During the genocide, from the history, we haven't seen lots of Twas having participated in the genocide, because the previous government at the time also had marginalized them, so they couldn't have participated. There are some few cases, but Twas as an ethnic entity, they didn't turn against the Tutsis.
Yeah. Okay.
First of all, congratulations. I mean, your organization is doing great. So my question is, does the government have a policy on reconciliation? Or is it only a civil society issue? Because in Spain, we had a civil war. We were talking about it yesterday. So we had the civil war more than 80 years ago, and we have no reconciliation policy. So do you have one?
Thank you, Enrique. Yes, of course. In around 1998, if I'm right, the government came up with the National Unity and Reconciliation Commission. And that's then around 2000, the government came up with a reconciliation policy. So what included in that policy was to have all Rwandans of all categories to attend solidarity camps. People would spend 30 days together, around 2,000 people, going through the Rwandan history, going through what led to the genocide, what led to the war, and where all the misunderstandings came from. For example, it's a policy that since 1997, all the students who completed high school, joining the higher institutions of learning, had to go for these solidarity camps. Even I and my colleagues had to attend those camps. The most interesting thing that they would line us up and would be requested to share beddings. That time, the sex orientations had not yet So we would share beds. So I ended up sharing a bed with a colleague from the north. But the essence was to discover the humanity in your colleague, and also to understand where he comes from. Because the Rwandan population is like cocktail. We have those who came from the diaspora, who were born in the diaspora, whose parents had been in exile for 32 years. We have Tutsis who had been marginalized for almost 32 years. We have survivors. We had ex-perpetrators. We have children belonging to the perpetrator. So you can imagine that kind of society. So among the reconciliation policy, it had those solidarity camps that the young people had to attend, and even now they are still attending them. Then government officials, they also had sessions so that people can try to understand the history, understand the past, irrespective of other academicians who have said that it is manipulating people. People should be left to think how they. But the leaders had no choice apart from trying to come up with homegrown initiatives that can try to bring people together. So, yeah, the policy is around.
Quickly, actually wanted to also mention that the only thing that does not change in the Rwandan constitution is the principles of unity and reconciliation, which actually also reflects the kind of society we have. And this, for instance, attributes to the Senate the responsibility to ensure that the principles of unity among the Rwandans are respected across all institutions, which includes avoiding discriminatory practices in hiring, in education system, in anything that happens in the country. So that's all, reflects what the government was trying to achieve after the genocide. And I would really say that that's something we've seen unchanged, even with the changes the constitution has gone through recently.
Thank you very much. Before, towards the genocide, at least all the IDs of Rwandans had an inclination of ethnicity. After your name, there would be either Hutu or Tutsi or Twa, which is one of the things that was eliminated. Now it's just Rwandan. And there's another interesting policy or strategy ongoing is Rwanda, which means I'm Rwandan. I shouldn't be looked at in the lenses of ethnicity. So that's one of the things I wanted to highlight that has been very deliberate when it comes to reconciliation altogether. Thank you.
Well, I think we have more questions, but those will come with a Q&A at the ending. I just suggest to my compatriots from United States to think about us. Did we have this, or we still are struggling? I'm really, but that's for, we have a section to where we will try to put together what kind of things we find in common on all these examples of societal performance challenges. I'm going to invite our president and also John Lazar, who represents the board, to come and present the awards to this program. And I will invite all the presenters to come, please. And you are going to be and also Enrique Mirabillas from ISPA Spain. Okay.
forward. Can you step forward? You have a.
Yeah, oh yes, because of the light on the.
Ladies first. Group picture.